So I just try to use my art, you know what I mean, as a platform to say some of the things that I've always believed and I've always considered to be big parts of who I am and what I think is important, but using art to do it.
What artists, other artists that inspire you, like past ones or any kind?
Man, that list is so long I couldn't even.
Well, just name one.
I mean, locally, you know, my mentor growing up was Larry Poncho Brown. You know, he's a guy that is a Baltimore artist, world renowned. You know, his work has been featured in, you know, just about every major publication you could find for an artist at that time growing up. And I was fortunate enough to, you know, be one of his young pupils and to learn a lot about arts and learn a lot about the history of art and the importance of having your own individual voice and having your own style and cultivating that artistically. So he's somebody that I've looked up to a lot. Charles Bibbs is another mentor of mine that is very highly respected across the globe, and he's somebody that I've always followed his work and gives me a lot of inspiration. You know, I get genuine inspiration from great art. You know what I mean? I don't really care how you dress it up or where it comes from. You know, I see stuff all the time, you know, in random galleries that I'll go to visit or even online. You know what I mean? I just check for art all the time, new art. I'm always looking for new inspiration. You know, me and all the rest of us started the Raison Art Society was because we really were inspired by each other's work and really felt like together we could do some great things. I wouldn't necessarily say the clothing line inspires artwork. The artwork inspired the clothing line. You know what I mean? It started with, you know, with me being from childhood, you know, the non-conformist that I am. You know what I mean? I never really had put a lot of stake in brands. I used to get all my shoes from, you know, the Tennis Shoe Warehouse and, you know, you know, wherever we could find out of East Bay that would have my size. You know, I had a size 15 when I was 15 years old, so, wow. You know, there weren't a whole lot of options for me. That contributed a lot towards me being the person that I am right now, you know what I mean? Because I never put a lot of stake in having what was popular. I developed my own taste of knowing what I liked and knowing what my style was. So, you know, when I was fortunate enough to make a little bit of money and I was in a position where, you know, I could pretty much get wherever I wanted, you know, I was blessed and fortunate enough to, you know, I signed with Nike, you know, when I first left school. Right. So, you know, the first thing I told them before I signed my contract was, you know, I'll sign with you guys, but I never had a pair of Jordans before. So y'all gotta send me every pair y'all ever made.
And they were fine with that?
Of course. You sign somebody, you want to do whatever they ask. You know what I mean? Especially something as stupid as give me some shoes. Right. You know, like that wasn't the only stipulation of the deal, of course, but you know that was, you know, kind of like a moment of vindication for me. But you know, even in that act, you know, they meant nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's like I've already accomplished enough where these are given to me now. Mm-hmm. So what do you like? You know what I mean? And I'm an artist, so obviously rather than wear a whole bunch of other people's versions and perceptions of what looks good, I'm just gonna decide what I think looks good and I'm gonna wear my own stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so that's, you know, where the idea for the clothing line started, but it just so happened that, you know, I connected with a great group of artists that, you know, had great business mindsets about themselves, and we decided to do something together, you know, aside from our own individual hustles that we felt like we could put our stamp on, you know what I mean? It would be not just a representation of us individually, but of what we've started here in Baltimore, you know what I mean?
Right. So how would you consider your style far as fashion, and what's your favorite designer?
I like shirts that hang right, but I like them to hang different, you know what I mean? I like, you know, pockets where they shouldn't be, and a whole bunch of unnecessary storage space because I like to travel with paintbrushes and stuff like that, so I can paint anywhere.
So you just recently did Miami Art Basel. How do you feel about how popular it got?
The fact that I had the privilege to be on the same stage with artists that I respected and admired their work my entire life, you know, it was humbling. You know, I feel like that was artistically, you know, the equivalent of, you know, getting drafted or, you know, all that. You know, it was that successful of an experience, and you know, it's the kind of experience that you can't really, you know, you can't really relay it in its entirety to people, you know, verbally, because you just, a lot of stuff you just had to be there. You know, that show was like the first show where every painting in that show told a story that related back to the general theme of the title of the show. Yeah. You know, and for me, as an artist, it was great to kind of go on that journey of, all right, this is what the theme is going to be, you know what I mean? This is what the theme of the art is going to be for the show. And then conceptually really have that much inspiration, where we probably showed about like 80 or 90 paintings, you know what I mean, in those two showings. So out of all the ones that we showed, you know, most of them were done in that time period prior to us going down to Miami. And I did about 10 when we were down there.
Oh, okay. Oh, thanks for the interview.
Appreciate you guys stopping by, man. Thanks a lot. Hey, what's up? This is Aaron Maybin. Big shout out to Style Never Sleeps, AnotherFashionBook.com.
With